hou de preek alleen in het Engels. Ja, ik denk dat iedereen hier Engels kan. Zo niet even de hand opsteken. Dear friends, today's gospel shows through this beautiful and even every now and then funny story of the man born blind, healed by the Lord, and then interrogated by everyone. How one becomes a Christian. By meeting Christ, being changed by him unexpectedly, and by consequently realizing and recognizing what has happened. The realizing and recognizing happens afterwards. First something happens, then we realize that it happens. It's always like this. So the most important indication is sticking to the facts. To stick to the facts. That is the great and simple and beautiful and unexpected lesson of this gospel and of first education that the Lord tendentially does with us. Stick to the facts. And for this, an attitude is needed that is simply not hostile to start with. Needed is a simple, realistic attitude. A man is blind from birth. In order to live, he is forced to beg. Jesus, passing by, sees him and heals him. He gives him the capacity to see. We can imagine how the man felt. We can imagine his amazement and joy. People who had known him before even doubted if it was the same person. They asked him, "How were your eyes opened?" This is a good question. It helps in the first place him to realize what it was that had happened to him. Thoughtfully, he recalls, the man called Jesus did this and that, and now I can see. And the question brings him from his joy, let's say, but to a reflection on the origin of this joy. It's a good question. How were your eyes opened? Telling it to the others, he is practically telling it to himself, and he realizes better now how strange and exceptional it is what has happened. Not just, of course, an origin of enormous joy, but it is really exceptional. Then his friends ask him where this Jesus is now, and the man realizes he hasn't even gone back to thank him. Meanwhile, the news has reached the authorities. They approach the question ideologically, as opposed to realistically. They have already decided how the situation is, that Jesus disturbs, that therefore he should be silenced for a greater good, calm of society, the peace with the Romans, whatever. An ideological approach. We have some sort of cause and we invent the consequences with it, not looking anymore to what happens. And thus they don't want to hear the facts, the new facts. It's quite a new fact. And they try to confuse the man, the messenger. They say, Jesus must be a sinner because he heals on a Sabbath. The realistic approach instead, and few of them also among the Pharisees, there are a few who have this, they start from the facts and they reflect on them. Ideology is a coherent development of an idea, While a realistic approach watches the fact and reflects on the facts, starts from the facts, and lets itself be corrected by the facts. How can a sinful man do such things? His acts, the facts, show that he must be a prophet of sorts, at least. Someone who has to say something important to us all. Good. Since the man born blind is stubborn, they call his parents. What means stubborn? Stubborn means, in this case, sticking to the facts. Very simply, this thing has happened to him and he will not be moved away from it. They ask his parents and try to confuse them, but they stick to the facts too, the facts that they have in their hands. This is our son, he was born blind. We realize that he can see now. How this happened, we don't know, ask him. We don't know any more than you can know just by looking and asking. Then they tell the man, we, the authorities, know that this man is a sinner. So what do you say now? He replies, sticking to the facts. He doesn't say he is not a sinner. He says, if he is a sinner, I don't know. This is your business. Yeah? It's your responsibility in front of what you know and what you can see. I'm not a priest. I'm not a Pharisee. Yeah? One thing I know, and that I was blind and now I see. He continues to stick to the facts simply. They ask him again the same question, maybe to make him nervous. What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? He answered them, I already told you and you did not listen. Because your approach is ideological. You don't listen because listening doesn't interest you. You don't want, you don't expect, you don't need new facts or facts. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too? This is ironical, of course. But it's also true, for if those exceptional facts would have truly happened, they would have consequences for our lives. They should be followed in some way. Facts have their consequences, always. Facts, they cannot be made undone anymore, and they have their consequences. They must in some way or the other be obeyed. When a child is born, it's a new thing, it must be obeyed. You can like it or not, it is there. Better like it, better accept it. It will be good for yourself. It should be followed, facts should be followed, facts have consequences. When we start to open our eyes, it is as risky as what Bilbo says about leaving the door of your house. You don't know what happens. If you start to be realistic, if you start to stick to the facts, we can easily change, because things that we see that enter our horizon, they change us, because they have their dynamics, they have their effect on our heart, on our desire. They may, for example, attract us somewhere that we were not prepared to go. But that can be very interesting for us. Do you want to become his disciples too? No. Because facts should be followed. So there are some facts that are so strong that they should be followed wherever they go, wherever they lead you. In fact, that is the reason why the authorities don't want to accept those facts, because of their enormous consequences that they could have. Facts like these, and it's only one that Jesus says and does. So not succeeding in making him abandon the facts and copy their vision. Instead, having helped him unwillingly to understand better how truly exceptional it was what had happened to him, and what should follow from this, they silence him with another non-argument. You were born totally in sin, and are you trying to teach us? And then they throw him out. When Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, he found him and said, do you believe in the Son of Man? which is a formal, we could say, act of faith. You say in the creed, I believe in God, and so on. This is in a very short form the same thing. When we say the creed, we don't know exactly, let's say, necessarily from the beginning the meaning of every single word that we say, but we pronounce it because in our experience, the one who gives us the creed is trustworthy. In our experience. This is what we see we see here also clearly what the act of faith is. Do you believe in the Son of Man? The man born blind answered and said, who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? This is very beautiful. Because the man who once was blind had not recognized Jesus as the Son of God or the Son of Man. He didn't see God. He saw a man. He had recognized the facts that with this man had happened to him. He had recognized Jesus as the man who had cured him. A sir, he says, who had changed his life. And not every man changes your life in such a way. And therefore, for what he had seen, for what he had experienced, this really is the method, is the Christian method. It would be really beautiful if we would accept the method. For what he had seen, for what he had experienced, he was prepared to accept him as someone to follow. Because it was so exceptional what he had experienced with him, that it would be irrational, absurd, not to be interested also in the rest, what was connected with this man. You tell me, Lord, you've done this thing, then you tell also what is the Son of Man. Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him? And then within this recognition, the recognition of his exceptionality, Christ reveals to him also, let's say, formally who he is. And then it is the faith. The faith is to recognize as true what an historical presence says about himself. We don't see God, we see a man, we see a human companionship. But with this man, with this human companionship where he claims to be present, I am changed in a way that I would not have expected, believed. And therefore, this man is so exceptional that I start to listen to him. And then when he says certain things about himself, I am forced to accept it. Not forced in the sense of, but it follows from the facts. Because not everyone can do these things. Not everyone's presence changes one. Christianity, friends, is not a theory with which you can agree or not, nor it is a set of ethical rules with which you can comply or not a system of rites to be observed. It is the encounter with an exceptional presence, whose exceptionality we can recognize because of the surprising change it generates in us. Surprising, first of all, for ourselves. So on this beautiful Sunday, Sunday Laetare, the fourth Sunday in Lent, Easter is already closer than Ash Wednesday. We are over the half. It's a day of joy. Let's use this joy, the energy of this joy, to help each other to stick to the facts as they happen.